Okay, Miranda, how you doing? All right, I was reading through your writing here, and this is good stuff. Really good job describing your intent, your concept development, as well as your methodology. So this is good stuff right here. Um, let's just jump right over to the composition, shall we? So I got you up right here, and I think it typographically I think it's good. Really nice kerning, good leading. That's a nice spacing. Really great relationships on the title treatment. If there's one thing I would say is that, speaking of kerning, I think that you can close down the space. Now this is substitution. This is visual substitution, right? But it's still of course you can't kern that, but you can certainly kern the letters around it. I think the space between the Y and the little illustration is too wide. I also think the space between the illustration and the U. So I would close that down a little, close that down a little, and the rest looks gorgeous. I'll talk about the flower as a replacement from the tittle in the eye. I'll talk about that in 1 second. Tittle, that's the actual technical term for the dot above the eye, tittle. So I want to talk about that in a second. So we talk about this visual correspondence, right? And I think this is just a really super clever idea. It's the simplicity is just speaks volumes to the power of this particular little visual correspondence here. So that's fantastic. Now, one thing I would say is I think that this might be too much. Presenting both might be a little too much. And if you've watched some of the other videos, there's two principles in design. One is called Hick's Law. The other is called Occam's razor. And both of those point to simplicity in design. Occam's razor and Hick's law both state that basically, in essence, that every time you add something to a composition, it takes away from what's already there. So, and this, I think, is a really good example of that, because replacing the tittle with the flower kind of takes away from the impact of this, okay? Or this takes away from the impact of the flower. Do you see what I'm saying? But using both, I think it's kind of dilutes the power of either one or the other. So it dilutes the impact of the one or the other. I love this. I think this is so clever. I have a feeling that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that this flower right here is going to act as portions of the timeline. And I'm not sure that seems really, really obvious at this point. And you know, as designers, we don't want to make obvious solutions. We want to make impactful and engaging solutions. So I always use this example. Okay, so you want to be the designer that surprises people. You don't want to be the designer that is predictable. Okay, and that's I think the best way to look at that. Okay, so my main thing, I think that the typeset's beautiful. That's a gorgeous typeface. That typeface, a really nice combination there too. So I think the composition typographically is set up gorgeous. I'm not feeling the color. I am, and I know you got your color palette here, and that is a beautiful color palette. I'm wondering how you generated that color palette. Let me know when you get a second, because that's just gorgeous palette. What I'm saying about this though is you're using this purple kind of lavender color to represent Malala. And the thing that I know that she wears purple sometimes and blues, but this is a very cool color in the color spectrum. It's very much on the cool side. And I think conceptually, I think Malala would be considered a very hot topic and has been for many years. I can't remember when she first started being seen in the news. I can't even really remember off the top of my head what year the attempted assassination was. But all of this stuff, the attempted assassination, the controversy, her steadfast demeanor, her obligations to activists for women's education, and her approach is these are hot topics, and I don't think they're being represented well with a cool color. Okay, and quite typically, as I said, I know she wears blue and purple sometimes, but most of the time she's wearing reds, oranges, colors that are at the hot end of the spectrum. And I've got this up so we can see. Okay, that's a cool color, but these are all really warm colors, and we see it over and over and over. Of course, there's some examples of cool colors, but for the most part, she's really wears a lot of really super warm colors. So I think that we can represent that and also use visual correspondence via color to indicate that she is a hot topic, not something that is laid back, not something that should be ignored, but something that should be considered to be a hot topic. And I think that can be represented by use of color, by maybe reevaluating your use of a cool color into more of a warmer area of the spectrum. My other recommendation, and as I said, I'm just not sure about using both of these. Now, I, I'm seeing this as too much, okay? So if we remove that, that leaves us with what are you going to use to create visual correspondence between the front of the poster and the back, specifically the timeline. Do you see what I'm saying? Of course, you can create visual correspondence, of course, by creating consistency in layout, creating harmony in color, your color palette, etc. But I'm just wondering how you're going to transpose this into visual correspondence for the back of the timeline. Really super interested to see what your thoughts are on that front. So those are my recommendations. Those are really my only recommendations. I'm going to ask you a question in our discussion board. And the question I'm going to ask you is to describe the meaning and the reasoning behind the right aligned type. And I think it's really important to establish these types of considerations. As I do explain to other students earlier in this post, that you should be able to describe your reasoning for every design on every mark on the page needs a reason for being there, and you need to be able to verbalize those reasons. You're going to find yourself shortly here, very soon. You're going to be looking at a career in design. And in between now and then, you're going to go through several portfolio reviews and several interviews with the hiring professionals, right? And you're going to get bombarded with questions. That I promise you, that's going to happen. I know when I interview potential interns or potential designers, especially if I'm looking for a designer, I mean, I grill them. And if I don't get answers, I move on to the next one. I'm just being honest with you. I don't want to sound discouraging, but I just want to realize the importance of understanding and being able to express your reasoning for all of your design decisions. So, of course, the question I'm going to ask you on our discussion board is, what is the reasoning behind the right alignment here? Okay, and also I want to show you something really quickly. Our alignment here, as you're aligned, right? This looks a little off, and the reason being is because you've got this N, this vertical stem for the lowercase n on the subhead is aligned with the headline, right? But you're aligning it with the serifs. Okay, and actually you don't want to do that. You don't want to align with the serifs, and the reason being, and I'm just using this as a straight edge, so I'm placing this on the vertical stem of the lowercase letters in the title area, just so we can follow that line down. And actually those are not, well, those should be in alignment based on those vertical stems, right? So there's the vertical stem of the A, and that vertical stem of the I should be in alignment with the vertical stem of the A. Now, as I said, you don't want to align the serif. So the subhead, the end of that vertical stem of the N and the lowercase n, vertical stem of the lowercase n in the subhead is aligning with the serifs. That creates a visual optical illusion. And it makes it look like this is not in alignment. It makes it look like it's pushed over to the right a little bit. What I recommend doing, and not only for this project, but in alignment in general, is align, if you're aligning something, a sans serif with a serif, don't align it with the serif. Try to align it with the beefiest part of that portion of the letter. Okay, so you wouldn't align it right here. You would try to align it right over here somewhere. And that's going to eliminate that optical illusion of looking at this and thinking that it's not in alignment. It's too far to the right. Okay, other than that, I think that you're really off to a fantastic start. Let me know what your reactions are. If you want to resubmit here, I'm more than glad to provide further comments and considerations. So yeah, I mean, think about this. Think about where we're going to go from here. All right, and of course, the most important thing is get with me quickly if you have any questions at all. But if you want to go ahead and repost and address these, go ahead. If you want to, whatever you want, I'm here. If you're working, I'm working. So if you want to repost for further comments, I got no problem giving you another full critique. Okay, that's it. So if you have any questions, Miranda, please get with me. All right, great start. Thank you.